Special coverage of the murder of Stephanie Flores Ramirez, the probable murder of Natalie Holloway in Aruba. Jossie Mansour of El Diario, the top journalist in Aruba. Jossie, does Aruba want Joran back? He says that now he's really ready to tell the truth about what he did to Natalie Holloway. Do Aruban authorities want him to come back to tell them what really happened?
I doubt it very much. We don't want him back. Let him keep him in Peru forever.
And is that the general sentiment on the island, Jossie?
That is the general sentiment on the island, because we have all these feedbacks coming into the newspaper, and people are really angry with this character. He put Aruba in a very bad light, a very negative light, and he continues to do so every so often whenever he gets a chance.
Kimberly, given the fact that he's told so many lies,
right,
and given the fact that I believe he tossed this body into the sea, do you think we'll ever know what happened to him?
No, because if Joran van der Sloot's lips are moving, he's lying. He has told so many different inconsistent stories. He said they sold her to someone to go to Venezuela into white slavery. He said she fell off a balcony and hit her head. Then he said she fell on a rock, hit her head. Otherwise, then he said, oh, I'm not sure where she went. So there's nothing really, like, how are they going to go ahead and proceed forward with the case? At this point, they've muddied it up so much. They should have proceeded on the case right away from the beginning when they had the evidence, and instead we saw something that was corrupt there when they had the information they needed, and the evidence in the Calpo brothers' car as well from where she was last seen.
Mark Furman, I think, accurately labels Joran van der Sloot a cunning amateur, Bo Dietl. Do you think there are more crimes that he's committed in the same exact way, in spontaneous rage, using his hands to kill a weaker woman?
I said that last week. There's more to this guy.
Colombia.
5 years to 2 girls in Colombia. Yeah, Thailand. But also, you got to remember something. He's a poker player. He's holding that card about Natalie close to him. I think, like Kimberly said, he threw her in the water. She was in the ocean, and that's where she lies. He's just playing this game. I met that creep in the airport. I looked in his eyes. I said, why don't you put your hands around my throat like you did to that little girl? And he looked down at me viciously, but he didn't put his hands on my throat. But my whole thing with him is, again, remember the roofies, the drugs that he uses? They found in the car 50 blocks away some contents of roofies there. He could have slipped the roofie this girl. Robbery, I think, was the motive. Maybe she didn't.
He had no drugs in his system.
No, but robbery was the motive, and maybe she didn't cooperate with him with the robbery, and he had to end up murdering her, and he snapped her neck. This creep should burn and rot in that jail.
You shouldn't have had to sting
Mark Furman,
either.
if you were interrogating him, what would be your first question?
Well, Geraldo, the first question is, why should we believe you now? And you've got to give me something before this interrogation goes farther that gives me an indication that you are being truthful. In other words, you're going to stay here in Peru, and we're not going to consider that Natalie Holloway is buried where you say, unless you give me some piece of evidence that I can actually corroborate, and then we'll move from there. Otherwise, you walk out of the interrogation room and say, forget it. And one other thing, Geraldo, this guy is your typical domestic violence wife beater, but he's not married yet.
Right.
I mean, the same mentality.
Good point, Mark. That's it for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I hope we see you tomorrow when you join us for our special report on the 16-year-old sailor girl.